Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So today, our activity is just to focus on completing the season's model assessment if you have not done so already. Uh, I have sent back the first period two and period three. So I've given you comments and you can work on revisions today, but we'll have a day on Thursday later this week where we will work on revisions kind of like as a class. We'll spend our day doing that. And I'll go around and have like mini conferences with students in the class as well as virtual as well. So um, today, anyway, focus on completing this if you have not done so. If you've already gone through it once and you've submitted it and turned it in, um, then just double check if you've gotten it back. Make sure it didn't say like uh, add more clarification or make sure that you submit your model with this assignment because those were two things as well. There were a lot of people that didn't quite have their answers as elaborate as I wanted them to be, and I wasn't quite able to understand your thinking behind those. So make sure that you're being detailed in those, and that's kind of what I'm going to go through here. So here are the first six, or excuse me, first five uh, things. These are like checklist items. So make sure that these things are in your model and then answer these questions over on the right side about the things in your model as well. So that's the first kind of five or so, um, or the first part of the assessment. And then the second part is how does your model represent the change in daylight throughout the year? So you can explain how your model shows that, but also explain why that is the case. So like why does Ames experience more daylight than Australia when we have summer and they have winter? And like why does that flip throughout the year? That's what I'm looking at for number eight is an explanation as to why that occurs, as well as how your model shows that. Number 9, same thing. How does your model represent the change in temperature conditions throughout the year? So tell me how or why those temperature changes occur on Earth, and then explain how your model shows that or includes that in there as well. Number 10, just a little bit more elaboration. So explaining why both of the hemispheres, both the northern and the southern, have opposite seasons. So when the northern hemisphere is in the summer, the southern hemisphere is in the winter. So tell me why is that the case? Number 11, what type of temperature does your model predict for locations near the equator? You can just answer that straight up. Number 12, this is looking at like you. Um, so during this model, you created multiple seasons. Explain, or during this unit, you created multiple season models. Explain why your current model is the most accurate in representing the seasons. So think about like how you included, or like why looking at more evidence made your season or made your model more accurate. Number 13, again, kind of that same thing. So, how is this unit similar to how scientists work with models? Think about like, okay, if you looked at evidence and your model became more accurate through time, why might science or how might scientists also do that with their models? Uh, Number one down here, make sure that you're explaining why, not just like explaining what's wrong with this model, but explain why it does not result in four different seasons. This was another big thing. Oftentimes, students just told me what was wrong with it, but then stopped there. Um, Same thing with this one. Explain what's wrong with it, but also why it does not result, why this model would not result in four different seasons. And then looking at this last one again, uh, again, what's wrong with it, but why does that result, or excuse me, why does that not result in four different seasons in Iowa? So those are our assessment questions. If you have any concerns or comments or questions during the assessment, wave me down and I'll be happy to help you out, especially if you're virtual. Just join the meet. I'll have an AirPod in tomorrow since the majority of my students will be completing this in class anyway. And then today, if you are done with that, the next thing that I'd like you to work on is if you go to our classwork tab and you click on Peppered Moth Game. So this is only if you have completed the season model assessment. If you haven't done the season model assessment, don't worry about this. This is kind of like an introduction to our next unit, um, and we might come back to it later. So it's more just kind of like introduction to what's happening right now. So you'll click on this. It'll take you to this document. It'll be a view only document because I didn't want to make it an assignment for those of you that haven't completed it. instead it's just make a copy. So to do that, you will click on this little caret if it doesn't show up, but there will be file, and then you can click on make a copy, um, and then you'll have your own copy of it. But there's this game. The link is right here. You can click on that. Um, it'll take you to this game, and then your job in this game is to act like a bird. So you'll see like a shadow of a bird, and you'll go. Your goal is to eat as many moths as you can in 60 seconds. When you get to this pic or this game right away, it'll say click on like a light forest or a dark forest. Click on either of those to begin. I like you to do both of them, and then just answer these following questions after completing the game a couple of times. So these questions are meant to kind of introduce you to these topics. If you don't necessarily know them, just give me your best. That's fine. Um, yeah, that's kind of all I'm looking or asking of you is like, what do you notice about these graphs? What do you think that these graphs are changing? So on and so forth. And then there's a video for number 7. This video is relatively in depth. Um, like it's probably not one that I would show in class, um, but it really gets down to like the deeper level of natural selection, yeah, as well as like evolution. And so, if you would like to watch, well, I'm asking you to watch this, but the questions aren't super deep, like they're 8th grade level. Um, but if you want to watch like after like the 4 minute part, 3 minute part or so, things get kind of like crazy with what he starts doing. And then he has other videos on his YouTube channel that look at um, like spreading of germs and stuff like that, and how epidemics and stuff like that begin. So if you want to kind of follow into a little rabbit hole, especially given like the circumstance of COVID and how not just viruses but also bacteria and diseases kind of like spread in a community, um, that'd be a really interesting YouTube channel to go in. And so that's why I linked this video here. But obviously, we're not going to be talking too much. We might include a little bit of COVID discussion into this unit since it feeds in pretty well, but we probably will not spend too much time on it. But if you are interested in that stuff, this video and this channel would be really cool to look at. If you have any questions about this activity, just let me know. Like I said, I'll be in the Google Meet, so just pop in. If you're in class with me, just wave me down. So I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.